from a fallout shelter somewhere under Seattle, Washington. It's the show you've been waiting for. Get ready to join your hosts, John and Kenric, as they talk comics, movies, and more. Now here's Spoiler Country!
Alright, welcome back to Spoiler Country. I'm Kenric, and that is Mr. Horsley. And today on the show, well, it's our man on the street, Casey T. Allen. He's got a whole new interview with us with CJ Pendragon. She's got a Kickstarter out. It's for a book one of a trilogy called Granny Golem. Have you heard this yet?
So you sent it to me. I've looked at it, but I have not heard anything about it.
So it's pretty cool. I think kids in trying times, especially when things are beyond their control, like divorce, deaths in the family, just all this different things that happen on, the voice tends to get lost. You know, you hear a lot of, oh, kids are resilient. Well, not as much as you want to believe. I think you want to believe that because you're not resilient. So you want to take care of yourself, and you ignore the fact that the kids are having some real issues, and it hurts them more than you think, especially divorce and you know, a death in the family.
Yeah,
so
kids are just better at hiding because they don't know how to understand what's going on.
Yeah. So CJ, I found her on sorry, not on Kickstarter, but on Twitter. And I read the synopsis, and I'm like, oh, this sounds really cool. And then I went on to the Kickstarter, and I loved the art, and I reached out to her and said, hey, I love your stuff. You know, we do a podcast, and we do this stuff. And she's like, oh, I want to come on. And Casey said, I'll reach out to her. And thus an interview was born.
Yes. Casey is our man of interviews now, and I love it.
Yes, me too. So Granny Golem is book one. It's the book one of a trilogy, and it follows a young girl. And I don't want to say her name because I might say it wrong, but I think it's Ariella. Ariela. So I think it's Ariella, but I'm just going to say she or her or they.
I work with a girl with that name, and she pronounces it Ariella.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, I take that back because sometimes it's pronounced Ariella, but it's spelled that way, and it does get pronounced both ways. So now I'm going to take that back. I have no idea how it's pronounced.
Yeah, it's either Ariella or Ariella, or it's a cool looking name. I don't want to butcher it. So she's struggling to learn how to cope with her parents' tumultuous divorce and her mother's addiction. Her mother's an alcoholic, and the loss of her grandmother. And, you know, they're the only sources of her stability that she's known. So her father's forced to admit that her living conditions with her alcoholic mother are less than ideal. And our young heroine finds herself whisked off to a small town in Kentucky, armed with only the ashes of her beloved Bubba, angry, defiant, and hurting inside. She soon comes to realize there's something special about her new home. When old folk tales spring to life around her, she learns to cope with anger inside her and how to rely on others with a bit of supernatural guidance with an unexpected source. And I think we can start to get from that what is actually going on. You know, what you can kind of glean from that what happens.
Yeah, that's cool. That's something I want to get for my girls. Yeah,
it's really cool. It's I think CJ actually wrote the story, and Brian Middleton Jr. Penciled it, and I want to say colored it, but I could be wrong on that. But they have a very unique art style, which is good. It's inviting.
Yeah, I saw the art. I saw the when I looked at it, the art looks great.
The art looks great. The story seems unique. It sounds unique, and I'm excited. I actually already backed it. So I'll get a physical copy, and I hope they make their goal. They have a very ambitious goal of 12,000.
Let's help them get there.
Yeah, they got 23 days left to go. They're at $3,000 and $3,002 right now. So I hope they make it. It's a really ambitious goal.
Well, let's take a listen to Casey and CJ talking. Let's see hear more about the book.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, welcome again to another episode of Spoiler Country. My name is Casey Allen. You are you, and we are all citizens of this wonderful land we call Spoiler Country. Today I have CJ Pendragon, who is a writer and podcast host, and she runs the website Sirens of Sequentials. And today she's going to talk about her new book. It's a Kickstarter right now, and it's called Granny Golem Book 1. CJ Pendragon, how are you?
I'm doing so good, Casey. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's no problem. It's no problem. Your book looks really, really amazing. The art looks fantastic. We've just been kind of pouring over this Kickstarter and checking it out, and it looks like it's a really, really fun book. Can you tell us a little bit about how this book came about?
No, absolutely. First off, the art is Brian Middleton Jr. He's got a book out through Scout Comics called Wolfborn, and he is fantastic. He's got like the best art style. It's perfect for the story. Granny Golem actually started out as an idea that my husband introduced to me a few years ago that he's had in his head for the longest time. And he's like, you're such a good writer. You should do the story for me. And I'm like, And I bounced it back and forth. I started it as a prose story several times, and I just kind of let it die off. And over the summer, a friend of mine was running a project on Twitter, a contest, and he's like, hit me with your pitches, and I'll edit your full script for you, 22 pages. I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. And I really only did it to try to drum up interest for his contest. And he's like, no, I want to read that book. And I'm like, send it to him, and it just took root, and apparently Granny Golem was supposed to be a comic book. And it ran off with it, and it's essentially at its heart, it's about this little girl whose parents go through this nasty, nasty divorce. Her mother struggles with alcoholism. Her father's very distant. He leaves, and she's stuck with mom. And her grandmother acts as like this levee in the middle of all of this chaos. She protects her, she shields her, and her grandmother passes away. She has to move in with her dad. It's so hard to explain this one part because, like, I kind of took it off on my own here. But, when you're a little kid, you hear all these different stories about people who are like, oh, when you're scared, you should do this. You should, like, write on a piece of paper and go bury it in the backyard. Like, I know in Southern culture, that's such a huge thing. Bury the things you're scared of in the backyard. It'll go away. It's a very deep superstition that we have. And I was like, well, I love the idea of that. And, we wanted to have this golem in it. And so what if we have her make this golem? And she's supposed to put the piece of paper in its mouth, true to the lore of Judaism, and have that paper have her secret fears on it. And you smash the golem, and everything's supposed to feel better. But when she does it, some of her grandmother's ashes mix into it. And instead of making everything go away, the golem comes to life, infused with the spirit of her passed away grandmother. And then she just helps her get over like all this toxicity in her life and helps her move on and helps her heal. And it just started off as like this tiny story idea my husband had. It just kind of blew up into like this 44-page comic book of like 3 different parts, and it's been crazy.
That's awesome. It's crazy that where you can find inspiration. It often comes from just the strangest, random places. And it looks like you really have a great team on this with you. So it looks like a solid book all around. So this is your first foray into comics. You're a comic fan and a writer. What took you so long?
Well, I didn't get into comics until actually I'd married my husband, and we'd been together for a couple years. And I married him young. I was 19. I married him shortly after I turned 20. We got together when I was 19. And he's been collecting comics since he was a kid. So I, married him, moved in with him, and I had thousands of books at my disposal. And I've always been a reader, but I was a literary snob. Like, I'm not reading anything with pictures in it. I'm grown. You're 28 years old. What is wrong with you? And so I just kind of made fun of him for a little bit. And I went to MegaCon with him. I did the conventions with him, but I wouldn't pick him up. And then one day he's like, look, I just really want you to read this one book for me. And he handed me the right book, and it was just gone ever since. I started reading. I got involved in the online communities. I started reviewing. I made the website, and it just made sense that as much as I love to write, that I would eventually just try my hand at a comic script.
So what was that magic book that got you into it?
Powers Volume 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oeming.
I'm actually wanting to get into reading that. I've never read it. So you might have further sold me on it.
Yeah, it's I've never been like the capes and the superheroes and stuff, the action. Like, it's never been my thing, and that's what I understood comic books to be, like Batman and Captain America, which I love now, but it was just not the right thing to get me into reading it. However, I've always loved grungy stories and cop shows and stuff like that, and so Powers it's a superhero book, but it's also not a superhero book, and it was just the perfect thing to get me in the gate, and then it's just nonstop ever since. I don't think he really thought it through that his pull box was going to double, but...
That's awesome. I've tried to get my wife into comics, and it's just not taken. So I don't even think she wants to read my comics. So I've just kind of conceded defeat. But so the website, when did that come about?
Well, I started writing for a website that I will not name. A couple years ago, I got into the review scene, and I wrote for them for about a year and a half, and Comicsgate had came upon the scene, and I am a bisexual, queer, I haven't figured that part out yet. I am a queer female, and so I didn't really grate well with a lot of the people who ran with Comicsgate. My political views are different, my ideology is different, and I'm very outspoken. So we clashed a bit, and it came to a head with this website when there was an article I had written publicly denouncing something that had happened, and it blew up. And, you know, I was getting death threats, and I was getting rape threats, and I was getting nasty phone calls. And I was like, hey, you guys had my back, but I'm seeing a lot of support for the people bashing me on the website coming from the Twitter account. And it just kind of fell apart after that. And we had already decided, due to some other issues with that website, one of their spin-off podcasts, that the women who were on the site would like to start our own podcast to talk about books in a safe, inclusive space where we would be able to say what we felt we needed to say without being told to sit down and shut up. And so we had decided to start the podcast, and then everything blew up, and pretty much all at once, all the women on the team were like, you know, we're done. So our podcast just kind of turned into a full review site, and I bought the domain, and I got the name, and I got a logo from Taylor Esposito, and we just went running with it, and we hit our 1 year mark in August. And it's just been an absolute godsend. We're not as big, we're not as well known, and we focus on indies. But I've made so many friends and so many connections through that site, and just so many people who've enjoyed the things we've done. It's just made every night I have not slept completely worth it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Although now that I know that you're not a fan of Comicsgate, I'm just gonna have to end this. I'm joking. Fuck those guys. But
not gonna lie, when I knew there was two guys who ran this, I was like, oh God, please don't. I was so scared. I'm like, don't do this to me.
We haven't really talked about them on the show, but and not even on the website that I run, which is just how to make comics, so it doesn't have anything to do with Comicsgate. But it's just cringy assholes. I don't have anything to do with them, so I'm sorry you had to deal with that and deal with ugliness, because that's not what comics should ever be about.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, but you know, the website came out of it. I made some good friends, and that's a large part of what's got me here now. Is just the connections I've made specifically through Sirens, because I wasn't just reading the books. I was reaching out to the creators and doing my own networking. is what's got me here today. My editor, Bob Saley, I met through some friends of mine. I did through a review for their Kickstarter, and it's opened up an entire new world for me. So it makes me mad to think about it, but at the same time, I'm like, you guys have no idea how much you have done for me just by being out.
Hey, you've busted your ass to get the ball rolling. And speaking of Bob Saley, every time I hear somebody talking about him, he sounds like the nicest dude ever. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him or anything like that, but he sounds like a super good guy and consistently helps out with good stuff. So
yeah, Bob is great. He's fantastic. He's been a godsend on this project.
That's awesome. And you also do prose stuff. What exactly do you do when it comes to prose writing?
I've done several short stories I've posted up on a personal website I have, and I've dabbled in some poetry. I'm working on my first serious piece right now. It's a YA urban fantasy novel called The Scrolls of Stormar, and it focuses on a fae who is, she's got magic and she lives off in this magical realm, and she can cross over to the human realm, and she does this, and she's just your typical angry, defiant, pain in the ass, like you would expect a teenager to be, and she winds up killing a human boy. And she feels a little bit of remorse about it, but not much. But it gets to the point where her brother's like, shit's got to stop. You can't just do whatever you want all the time. You have to think about the consequences. So in an attempt to make it right, she decides she's going to go trade her life for his. But instead, what she does is she brings him back from the dead, but without a soul. And so the story just follows her journey trying to track down his soul and how to restore it back to him.
Okay, that sounds like a really cool story. When you get further along on that, you're going to have to come back on and talk more about it, because it sounds like something that people would be interested in looking at. You do all this, the website, the reviews, writing the comic, writing your prose book, the podcast. You are also a mother. How do you work all this into your schedule?
Well, I'm actually extremely blessed. My husband works and I get to stay home. I have a 2-year-old daughter, so I stay at home for her because daycare is outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
But I also have a daughter who just turned 7, who's in 1st grade, and our son is 8.5, and he's special needs. And his disabilities require a lot of attention from me physically at his school. So I wind up staying home, and it's just a matter of I'm up early with them, getting them off to school, and I don't sleep.
I know the feeling. So,
like everybody asks me, and I'm just not really sure like how I do. I just know some days I don't do the dishes and I write instead. And it's just a matter of juggling everything. Like I don't have much of a schedule because between having a toddler run my house and then my older kids just being kids, and then the special circumstances that go into raising a child who is autistic, there's not much of a schedule. It's just if I could find 5 minutes, I have the Google Documents on my phone. I type everything into that, so I can whip out my phone. I can work like in the car at doctor's appointments, and it's just a matter of finding the little bit of time I can actually type words down.
Oh yeah, Google Docs has increased my productivity in writing so much because it's just it's
so readily available. It's great.
Yes.
And you can get to it offline. It's awesome. I love it.
I haven't tried like Scrivener or anything like that. I used to have Word, but yeah, Google Docs is that.
Yeah, I tried Scrivener. My friend Easton DeVerna, he's a writer on a Samurai Grandpa with Sean Daly over at Source Point Press. He swears by Scrivener, and I tried it and I can't figure it out. There's so many buttons and like layers, and
it made me feel dumb. I was
so stupid.
I was like, I don't have enough time for this shit.
I'll just type it all into a document and I'll be done with it.
Ooh, I have a bone to pick with you, by the way. I saw your Twitter earlier today, and you said something about being... You were talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers and how you were 7 when Californication came out. And, oh my God, you made me feel so fucking old.
Yeah, it might have been 7. It came out in 99, I think.
Yeah, I was 7.
I'm 27,
17.
so...
I was 17 when that came out. But
I was watching my husband all the time. He's about to be 36, and I'll say something. He's like, "Yeah, you weren't even born yet." I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh yeah.
It cracks me up all the time. Like, you feel old because I don't even know what you're talking about.
One day when you get a little bit older, you will realize that they are objectively bad. I just want you to know that.
No. Okay, we can talk about Incubus, and I'm on board with that. Red Hot Chili Peppers have a special place in my heart.
I heard my wife and I have a mutual friend who is a huge Incubus fan, and we're just like, honey, no, that's awful. And we were in the car.
My dad is so them, and he's got such a great taste in music, and I'm like, what is wrong with you?
It's just like, pardon me while I burst into flames because this shit is awful.
Exactly.
That was, but yeah. So yeah, Granny Golem. I'm super excited to see this book. And you have plans for it. It's more than one book, correct?
Yes, we had planned on trying to do a contained story, just a single thing, but it was just getting to where it was just so expensive that I was like, okay, we're going to do a trilogy, 44 pages, the Kickstarter versions. I'll do a special one-shot. It's a 4 to 6 illustrated prose story I'll write myself, and we'll just do a trilogy, and then I'll have 3 arcs, and I've got it all planned out down to the last page of the trilogy, and I think we'll be good with the 3. And yeah, it's the whole thing. It's got, and I have intentions of introducing other folklore into it. I'm focusing very heavily on the Judaism, but I've got Irish lore in the first book as well, just for my own personal pleasure because I love it so much.
I mean, you're already writing about the Fae, so
yeah, it just needs to fit.
That's awesome. And I'm looking at your Kickstarter rewards, and you have some really, really cool stuff in here, and it's well worth your time to check it out. So I'm super excited about this book. Can you tell me where to get the podcast, where to visit the website, and how to get the to the Kickstarter?
The podcast is currently on hiatus because I do Podbean hosting, and they've locked me out of my account. So we are having to re-upload all of our episodes. But you can check onto our website, which is officialsirenandsequentials.com, and there is a podcast tab. And when all that's updated, you'll be able to find all of our episodes there. We have it broken down between our episodes and our interviews, where you'll find stuff with, we speak to Frank Thierry, and I've talked to Charles Vess and Cullen Bunn and a few others.
Shit.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
That's
I
awesome.
shoot high. And you'll also find on our website, we've got the comic book reviews, we have our interviews that we do written, and we've got Brian Edward Hill under there and Leah Williams.
How was Leah Williams? I would love
I
to.
didn't get to talk to her. I had another of our contributors do that, and he's just in love with her. He was so ecstatic. He said she was just so friendly, and they did it over Skype, and the interview's decent length, and he said they talked for a long time off the record too. He said she's super friendly.
I love how, I think she is also from the South, like from Mississippi or something. But I love how little a shit she gives to on her Twitter account.
She is so loud, and it's amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially
So
just
loud.
dealing with people being ugly. She's just like, "Fuck you." She could care less, and it's glorious. So we need more people like that, and less people.
Yeah, she's so talented, and she's just so in your face and unapologetic. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see it.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't wait to see her her upcoming X-Men run because her last one was quite interesting.
I know she did some interesting things with X-Men. I don't dabble too much into the big two just because I really have a lot of love for the indie books. I don't get too much into Marvel and DC. But I know X-Men, from the reaction of it, she did some awesome things with it.
See, I do not really buy anything but indie. However, the Kirkman run on the X-Men I keep hearing the reviews of it, and so I'm like, I'm gonna have to catch up with it. And now I've also heard that they have Leah coming back on later, so I'm like, oh wow, okay, so I might have to check it for sure.
Yeah, I'm a Batgirl. I'm a Batman stan, so I mean I read the Batman books, and I like Captain America and Spider-Man a lot. But X-Men has never really been like all that appealing to me, and people are gonna hate me for that. Like I've just never really gotten into it. I love the movies.
You were
but
born a decade too late. That's what it is.
Apparently. I guess that's it. I mean, my kids love it. They love all the shows, and my son will read the comics. Like it's just I guess it's that whole superhero thing for me that it's just not enough for me to get into it. Individually, I love the characters. Like I love Logan, but House of X has been great.
Oh yeah, yeah. What
seen that.
indie books have really been knocking your socks off lately?
Oh goodness, you're gonna have to edit down while I think.
It's fine.
I will. It's not new because I read it on a Kickstarter, but SourcePoint Press just picked it up recently, and they've been publishing it, so I can talk about it. Samurai Grandpa is like 100% top tier book in my. I love that book, and I would get tons of crap if I went on a podcast and did not mention them. My friends would never forgive me because I talk about them all the time. Samurai Grandpa has been beautiful. I'm a big fan of Coronary from Ryan Burke. I really like Southern Bastards, which I know isn't necessarily new anymore, but whatever. Middle West from Scotty Young is one of the best books out right now, I think.
I'll have that out. SourcePoint has really. They did my buddy Frank Gogel's book, The Dead End Kids. But
yes,
they also put out, which I loved. It was freaking phenomenal. I was very proud of what Frank was able to do with that book. And Rich Duick, they just produced his. They basically reprinted his Gutter Magic book. And if you haven't had a chance to read that book, oh my goodness, it's fantastic. The art is beautiful. And the story was really cool. It was kind of an urban fantasy, I guess. Maybe even some steampunk thrown in there. There's like goblins and stuff, but it also is in like New York City. Really, really cool stuff. And they have a 2-page spread in issue 1 that just blew my mind. So yeah, definitely check out that book if you get a chance.
I definitely will. I've read a couple of his books, and I'm a fan. I like him a lot. SourcePoint is just putting out consistently good stuff. I lied earlier. I have another script I'm working on, and my goal is to get them to pick it up.
Oh, that would be fabulous. That would be fantastic. Yeah. I keep seeing all these, small press books pop up, and SourcePoint and TKO and also a Wave Blue World have really been like popping out to me as small publishers that really seem to kind of be pushing the envelope on cool things right now. So definitely check those other. I'm sorry?
I said A Wave Blue World is astounding. I love their stuff.
Oh yeah,
I got a bunch of their Heroes Con, and their All We Ever Wanted anthology blew my mind. That was amazing. That was like perfect comic booking.
My buddy Matt Sumo was on the Deadbeats anthology, and that book was really well done. And
I haven't read that yet, but A Wave Blue World is redefining the way that the comic book industry is doing anthologies right now. They are nailing it out of the park.
yes, and we're saying this in hopes that A Wave Blue World will hire us. Hire us,
Absolutely.
you fucking cowards! Right now. I might have screwed us both. I'm sorry. You're really
It's
passionate
okay.
sometimes.
I have an anthology that I'm talking about with a friend of mine, and we're hoping to pitch it to them. So I'm hoping you didn't screw us too bad. But
Well, that just means we have to, start up our own thing. I think we can do it.
absolutely.
CJ, is there anything else we can talk about before we head on out?
Yeah, I'm gonna mention my other script I'm working on just because I'm so excited about it, and everybody on
Hell
Twitter
yeah,
is
let's talk about this. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's called Cattleman's Gun, a gunslinger's tale, and it is aiming to be a 120-page graphic novel. Because I aim big and I like to overwhelm myself with stress and anxiety. It is obviously a timepiece. It's an Old West story that focuses on a black cowboy and a sex worker who are in the middle of a false accusation of murder and some corrupt police systems going on in the Old West. And I am having a freaking blast with that thing. I don't know if anything's going to come from it, but I will keep shouting it to the universe until somebody wants to draw it because it has been so much fun to write.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I did not know that I was a fan of Westerns until I turned about 35 and noticed I was sitting down and watching a lot of Westerns. I was like, holy shit. So, and it's so fun to write in that genre. Have you been a fan of Westerns, or is this like just something that you got inspired by one day?
I've always been really into like cowboys and like the Old West, but I think more like the romanticized of it because growing up I read a lot of romance novels because I was just a girl, and so I've always had like this thing for cowboys and stuff. And my husband, because a lot of my stuff just circles back to him because he's influenced me so much, is very much small town, lived in Texas, lived in Florida. He's like a punk cowboy, if you can even do that. And he's really into all that stuff. So we watched lots of Westerns. And I love Jonah Hex, and people give me shit all the time for it. But I love Jonah Hex. And Logan is the best Western movie ever created. I will fight people over that. And so it's just always kind of been there. And I was thinking about it, and we talk all the time about history being whitewashed, and we're like, so many cowboys were black, and you never see that in movies. I'm gonna write a book about that. It was like a book about a cowboy and a sex worker in a saloon, and somebody was falsely accused of murder, and then it just kind of blew up, and now I have like 80 pages written. So it's one of those things that's kind of always been there, and then I grew up and saw things a little bit differently and stopped romanticizing it so much, and it got much cooler.
Oh yeah. It's crazy how much was whitewashed, and it's sad that the most prominent black cowboy in film was the guy from Blazing Saddles. So because there's so much of a history there that we don't know about. So that's awesome that you were able to kind of shine a light on that. And I can't wait to read it when it comes out. Have you gotten past the initial stage? Do you have like an artist lined up for it, or are you still working on that?
I've talked to somebody about it, about doing the artwork for me, and I'm just trying to determine whether or not I think he's a good fit. Because I'm a big fan of promoting diversity in what I write and making very careful that the people I hire to work with me also feel the same, or at least are part of the demographic I'm with. Like with Golem, I'm not Jewish. I have talked to a lot of my friends about it to make sure that the things I'm putting in the story are authentic and are genuine, and I'm making sure that we pay homage to all that, and that I've been very careful with the representation because I'm also going to have some queer rep in there, and I just want to make sure that the diversity is done properly. And with this one, it's a little bit trickier just because I am a white woman and the main character is a black man, that the way I go about writing it is very, very careful and very well researched. So again, I've reached out to a bunch of people on Twitter. I've talked to so many people about this, and I've been in contact with people throughout the story from the different demographics. Like I've looked into contacting certain sex workers that I feel I can talk to openly, and I've got an artist lined up that I think would do a very good job. My only thing holding me back right now is he's very, very superhero comic book oriented. And I'm trying to figure out if the style works the same way across the genres.
That's a lot to take into consideration. I understand that for sure.
Because he's a great artist. Everything I've seen has been so action packed and like just so punchy, cape flying that I'm like, can you draw something like this and still get the same emotional impact across? So
Also,
I'm still kind of looking.
Make sure he can draw horses. That could be a stumbling block.
I'm not going to be fast. We're not going to have like a dozen horses in one scene. Like I'm going to be real with it. I'm not going to be a jerk about it. But at least it won't be like 50 cars. It'll only be horses.
The book I'm working on right now.
Not be feet.
I'm writing a book right now called Voodoo Child, which takes place in Vietnam, and the artist I have on it is super talented, and he just got done on the book he's finishing up doing a multi-page car chase scene, and he was like, just don't make me do any car chases. I was like, okay, it's cool, I promise. I send him the last few pages of the book one, and there's a car chase in it. And he laughed about it, so it's all good.
Yeah, I hear car chases, but you're right. Don't make me draw a horse is a pretty popular refrain. So I mean, whoever I hire for that is definitely going to have to be able to draw horses.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic book, and I cannot wait to hear more about it. Like I said, come to us anytime. We'll talk about it. It's been lovely having you on. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to come on here and talk about it.
Oh, no problem. Like we were talking earlier, CJ Pendragon, the book is Granny Golem, and it is on Kickstarter right now. Be sure to check out that Kickstarter. It's under, pulling it back up. Sorry, it's under Granny Golem Book 1. CJ Pendragon is the Kickstarter person. So, get this book. Super good book. Like I said earlier, the art looks fantastic, and the guy you have on the covers is really, really a good addition to the team as well. Sean
Davis, author off Source Point Press.
I've noticed you've had a few people from Source Point on there. I cannot talk right now. My tongue is too big in my mouth. I do not know what is happening.
Source Point has a plethora of talented people, and they're all so friendly. Bob was so happy to help out, and Sean's been amazing. So,
yes.
Very happy to work with them. It's made the whole process for my first book much smoother, that they've all just been such a tremendously supportive team.
That's awesome. And I'm so stoked on this book, and I know that that Kenric from the podcast is really excited about this book as well. So you guys, good luck. You're already well on your way. So there are 25 more days to go as of the 6th of October. I had to think about what day it was. So everybody go out, get this book, and follow CJ Pendragon on Twitter. She has a really, really cool account, and support this book. CJ? It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Casey. Appreciate it.
All right.
Well, there you go. What'd you think?
I think it sounds great. I think I'm going to go check it out, and I'm going to show it to my daughters and my son because they're all big readers right now when it comes to doing anything comic, anything with pictures they want to read the hell out of. So I'm going to let them look at it and probably pick up a copy for them.
Yeah, there you go. So she's got some pretty good rewards. She's got the standard $15 pledge, and you get the physical copy and backer updates and all that kind of stuff. But then she has like the $1 pledge, say thank you. And then you can do $7 and you can get digital. So that way, if you can't afford more than like $7, just do that and you get the digital copy at least.
That's good.
You know, and then of course there's a bunch more. So, but as always, if you can't afford to help CJ out and her team, then please share it amongst your social media because that does help because somebody else might find it really, really good and get into it.
And share this podcast for people to listen to CJ talking about the book and maybe they'll be interested by that.
There you go. That's even better.
Yeah. Share our podcast out there. It's also sharing out the Kickstarter. Then kill two birds with one stone. Share our podcast and share the Kickstarter link.
Yeah. See? See that there?
Yeah. It's marketing, man. It's called marketing. We should learn how to do it sometime.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun. I really encourage you guys to go out and check it out. Again, just go to Kickstarter.com, search for CJ Pendragon or Granny Golem, comes right up, and check it out. I encourage you.
Or just click the links down in the show notes below, and you can get right to it.
Well, geez, man, you just keep one-upping me.
I'm just trying to make it easier for people. You're making them do all the work. I'm like, no, it's easy. Just click below. It's fine. Just scroll down a little bit and click. You're good.
You just got to go into your show notes. So on your podcatcher, to go into the actual episode and then click on the link.
Or go to scpod.net, use the search function there to search for this episode, then open up that episode, and then click the link there, too.
There you go. Even better. So I hope you guys are going to our website because we've got a lot of cool stuff on there right now.
Oh, so much stuff up there, man.
There's so much. And we have different reviews. We have reviews that hate movies and then a review that shows why they love the movie. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Joker is very popular right now because we have one review that is just destroys it, and then we have another review that Sarah's review is well thought out.
Yeah, it is. It's
way
very
more
well done
than Robert's dissection of it. I mean, they both dissect the movie, but he
in different ways.
Yeah, very different ways. You could tell who thought about it for more than a little bit of time, I think. Just giving Robert shit because he like
I was like, he's gonna hear this. He's
gave
gonna
me shit because he gave shit to that movie, and I enjoyed it. Anyways, we're out of here, guys. Don't forget, we are Spoiler Country. We are heard everywhere podcasts are heard. Of course, we're on all the social medias. And what else, Johnny?
We got a voicemail, 707-656-2080, 707-656-2080. It's still the first part of the month here, so we're still doing our voicemails for the Halloween episode. So give us a call, leave us something about your scary story, book, movie, comic, whatever you like, and tell us a story there, and we will see if we can incorporate that into the episode. As we talked about, website, scpod.net. Go there, check out all the cool things. If you want to email us, you can do so at spoilercountry@gmail.com, and by all means, just keep reading our stuff. It's awesome without being biased.
There you go. Let's go. All right, guys. Don't forget to open the mind.
Read more. I hate it when I get sucked into sick, like my voice changes in my head.
Yeah.
Before we get going, what do I call you, CJ Pendragon? What do you go by? Okay, cool.
That's the name I use for pretty much everything. It's what I use for the website I run and everything I write. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I figured it was a pen name. I didn't know if that was, how you want to be presented on the show or whatever. So I just wanted to double check. For the longest, they just called me Robot Seat Guitar, and which is my Instagram or my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter handle, and now I'm just like, that's the stupidest thing ever. So I always want to make sure I'm not like calling somebody by their Twitter handle or something that they would rather have like their actual name. So
nah, CJ's fine.
Cool. All right. Well, where are you at? You're in the South, right?
Yeah, I'm Northeast Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, shit, you're below me. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. So, all right.
Yeah, below to the east, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Alabama.
We're in North Central Alabama, so, yeah. Right up 65. So, are you from there originally, or did you magically end up there?
No, I was born in St. Augustine, which is
okay.
I was born in St. Augustine, and I lived in Oregon for a couple years, but most of my life, St. Augustine, Hastings, the same little county. So Hastings is like a little town, it's got like 600 people in it, and that's where I actually grew up. But you have to go to school the next town over. So I was born in St. Augustine, and we moved to Jacksonville a few years back, and that's where we live now.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm pulling up your Kickstarter right now. One of the guys from the podcast saw your Kickstarter and was like, "Dude, that looks awesome!" So he's backed it for a physical copy, and he's pretty stoked on it. So
that's cool.
We're gonna do whatever we can to help get the word out. We'll retweet and stuff like that, and hopefully this will get more ears and eyes on your book.
Definitely.
So, do you have any other projects in addition to the Granny Golem Book 1?
I'm working on a prose novel on and off a little bit. I've kind of put it to the side to do the comic. And I run a website. I run Sirens and Sequentials. It's a female-owned, female-led website that focuses on indie comic book reviews.
Cool.
And we do film reviews, and we have podcasts and stuff like that. And I run that. But right now, I'm pretty Kickstarter oriented, just because it's taken up so much of my time. I haven't got to do anything else.
It really does dominate your like everyday existence when you're in that, which sucks. So hopefully, we'll get over this.
Cool, though.
Yeah. I mean, and you're doing really well. I poked around on that website earlier today. It looked really good. I'm gonna have to listen to the podcast. So, I work in a lab, and it's all like really, insular, just me on my own. So I listen to podcasts all day. So I'll have to check it out. Do you have any other comic work that you've done before, or is this?
No, this is my first one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it came up pretty out of nowhere too. It's actually kind of a funny story behind it.
Well, so I'll ask you about that, and I'll also kind of talk to you about like what got you into comics, and like the first thing that clicked with you in comics, and if you don't mind, like stuff like what can we do to inspire and encourage more female readership, stuff like that, which is awesome. Which it kind of looks like it ties into your website, and anything else you want me to bring up?
I don't think so. I'm pretty good on the Kickstarter. I mean, I'm pretty open about anything, and I'll talk about everything.
No, yeah, and that's what we want.
But no, I can't really think of too much. We've got the website, which I definitely love to plug because I'm trying to get that geared up a little bit more. We've only been at it for about a year, and we've got the Kickstarter. I know I actually spoke to Caliber Comics about picking up a publishing deal with them once we get a little bit more done on the book.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they reached out to me today on Instagram, so I'm kind of still riding that high. He's like, "Hey, call me." I'm like, "Hell yes."
And so. Caliber has always had some really cool stuff. So, the Jewish folklore thing. Are you Jewish? Is that like a family thing, or is that?
I'm actually not. I was raised pretty neutral on everything. I was actually agnostic, borderline atheist. And I married my husband, who is a pretty devout Pentecostal, and I've kind of converted since then. And so I'm Christian, but my stepfather is Jewish, and this is actually an idea that my husband had. So we wanted to tie in the Jewish culture to it as an homage to like the most typical Golem lore, and then to tie in my stepdad's family, because one of the main characters is heavily designed after his mother, who's sick and ailing right now. And we've done so much research, reached out to so many people just to make sure that what we're doing is right. And I've got like the authenticity down, and we've got like little tidbits throughout the book, just like the character design and like things that you see in the background to speak to the Jewish culture in a really subtle kind of way.
Okay. Do you mind if I talk about that a little bit?
No, absolutely. I'd love to ask questions about
that. So I'm trying to write as well. And I contributed to an anthology which one of the other guys from the podcast started, and I actually have a golem in my story, and I kind of went off the deep end studying on it because it's not anything that I was familiar with prior to like going like, oh, that'd be cool to have a golem story. It actually came about because I was reading about the expulsion of the Jewish people from England in like the 1200s. I think it was like the late 1200s. And like a few, like maybe 60 years after that, the Black Plague hit. And so it just kind of got my wheels spinning like, ooh, that would be kind of cool to kind of add that into there, because they literally, like, the asshole king basically, like, made everybody just like, hey, clothes you have on your back, get out. So, I mean, they were just terrible to these poor people that had to, leave or die. So it was, it was cool being able to study up on that history.
There's a whole lot of history.
Yeah, cool's maybe not the best word. It was interesting studying up on that history.
It's still pretty interesting now, just because the anti-Semitism is still so prevalent in American society, that it's still one of those things that, like, I think the term I've seen used a lot is, circumstantial white, because obviously aesthetically many Jewish people are white, but just the treatment throughout history is very much geared towards people of color. Yeah. So going back in their history is like one of the most interesting things on the planet. And they've got such a rich culture with all the different rituals that they do and all the different lore. It's really cool to see more stories get put out there about it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it's crazy how deeply ingrained that you wouldn't even think that it's, like, culturally anti-Semitic, but America really has some really, excuse my language, but really fucked up ideas about people, and I've been reading a lot of stuff lately, and it just kind of blows my mind. So I'll shut up and stop rambling. I need to start this show. So we're 9 minutes 30 seconds in. Okay. All right. Welcome to another episode of Spoiler Country. My name is Casey Allen. Today I have... Let me start that over. I'm sorry.
You're good. I do it too every single time.